Jackie has confirmed that it's okay to do that by her signed oral history interview release form. Is that
Absolutely.
okay? Wonderful. So Wayne, Jackie, what's going to happen is I believe I sent you first of all, I can't believe I'm seeing you, my buddy,
I
my
see
buddy.
you too. I don't see you on Sunday when I tune into Guilford, and it's amazing that all the way in Mississippi, I can get to worship with you guys.
Right, yeah. But
I
anyway,
started the recording.
okay,
Joan.
we're going to start the recording now, Jackie. Thank you
Okay.
so much. It's wonderful to see you. Wayne, thank you a million times. You've always been there to support this project. And I'm just so excited that Guilford's history is going to be kept alive. It's going to be told. You know, eventually we would like to do a book wherever God, whatever God has in store for this project is what it's going to be. And the main reason why this is so important is that our history is, we're losing our history. And it seems like there are some forces that don't want that history to be told because there are, you know, not so good parts of the history, but history is history. So it doesn't matter if it's good, bad, indifferent, whatever. It happened. There's nothing we could do about it. That history made us who we are today. So with that being said, Jackie, I did send you the questions that we would be asking you. Anytime you want to go off the cuff, whatever you want to say, this is your time. You're the star of the show. And I know you have a lot to share because we've known each other since we were yay high to a grasshopper.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wayne, whatever you want to ask, just feel free to jump in. Jackie's going to take us back in time, and we're going to start with the questions now. So
I'm move my chair up a bit so that I can be comfortable.
All righty. Look just like your daddy right now.
Gosh, I know.
You do. You do. You favor your dad a lot. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start the questions, okay?
All right.
Is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay. First of all, what is your name and were you named for anyone?
No, my name is Jacqueline Diane Exum, and I was not named for anybody in my family.
Okay. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Baltimore, and that is because my mother and father felt that it would be safer for me, for them to have me there in case any complications did arise in childbirth. And then I was brought home after that, after a few days, to Guilford.
Oh, okay. So when and how did your family come to Guilford?
My father's family originated in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And my father's father passed away when he was like 5 years old. So my grandmother met someone and she remarried. And he went to New York to work for a while to raise enough money to move the family from North Carolina to Maryland. And they chose to absolutely to settle down in the Guilford community.
Okay.
And on my mother's side of the family, they were always in the Guilford area, in the Maryland area. So I don't know exactly where they came from, but my grandfather and great grandfather were residents of Howard County and lived in the Guilford area.
And what were their names?
My paternal grandfather was Grant Exum, and my grandmother married Edward Taylor. And I'm talking about my paternal grandparents now, and my grandmother's name was Esther Taylor Exum. On my maternal side of the family, my grandfather's name was Henry Moore, and my maternal grandmother's name was Eileen Moore.
Okay.
And on my paternal grandparents' side, my grandfather was an associate pastor of Guilford Baptist Church. And on my grandmother's side of the family, even though the Asbury United Methodist Church was across Route 1, the membership of Asbury United Methodist Church really consisted of residents of Guilford, of the Guilford community. My grandmother initially could not preach in the Baptist churches, so she became a Methodist minister, and she was associate minister of Asbury United Methodist Church.
Okay. Girl, you bringing up some good memories here. I remember all these people.
And her name was, what was her name again?
My mother's name was Eileen Moore. Eileen Carroll Moore.
Yeah, and can I mention that your mom was Leola Dorsey's sister?
Yes.
Okay. Wayne, you've heard me mention Leola Dorsey.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie's mom was her sister.
And she was my godmother.
Oh, okay. Wonderful lady.
Of course, my grandfather, Henry Moore, who was married to Eileen Carroll Moore, he was a deacon at First Baptist Church of Guilford.
Yeah, I remember him well. I remember both of them very well.
A fine, yes.
Go ahead.
So basically, my world surrounded them.
Yes. Where did your family settle in Guilford?
My family, my mother and father and my brothers, me and my two brothers, who are Keith and Jeffrey, we settled first. We were always on Guilford Road. We moved about 4 times, but it was always on Guilford Road. It initially was, after my parents married, they settled across from my aunt Leola Dorsey. They then moved to the old schoolhouse, which is next to Mission Road.
Oh, wow.
So they resided there for a while. Then we moved down the street, and finally we moved like closer to the Savage Road entrance near Guilford Road.
And that house is still standing today, Wayne.
Wow.
The last house that they she talked about is still standing today.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. How did your family make a living in Guilford?
Well, my father basically actually did not make a living on any industry that resided in Guilford, but he worked as a construction worker for the George Hyman Construction Company. And basically he worked for them because they were union, and there was more protection and more money for African Americans who were in construction to work that way. My mother, she worked as a substitute teacher for Guilford Elementary School, for Harriet Tubman High School, and she also was a credit manager for a high-end retail store.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I remember your family very well, but what they did for a living, I never knew. So I'm so glad that we have this opportunity for you to share, your family's behind the scenes history, because it's so important to the community and for this project. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Of course, my father could do all sorts of like construction things. So, him with other members of the Guilford community, like Reverend Samuel Moore, he had his own cement company, and different ones would just pick up odd jobs and call each other and say, "We've got a job. Do you want to work there?" And so they would work like that also.
Okay. What was it like to grow up in Guilford, Jackie?
There was nothing like growing up in Guilford. The community was so tight, and you were reared with family, friends, and you knew your neighbors. It was really so close knit. You didn't have to lock your door. You could go anywhere you wanted to go. You were protected all the time. It was a fun place. It was a place where you learned just all sorts of things in just daily living and educational wise and social wise, and the people in the community helped each other. I mean, if you wanted to know something, if you needed something, you could always rely on your family or your friends or your community members in Guilford. You practically knew everybody.
You're
I
exactly
mean,
right.
there was absolutely really no strangers
No,
in that community.
no. So what were your neighbors like? Who was your neighbors? And what were they like?
My neighbors were relatives, family relatives. My great aunt lived next door.
And her
My
name?
Her name was Iola.
Iola Holland.
Holland.
Okay, that was your great aunt.
That was my great aunt. That was my maternal grandmother, Eileen Moore's sister.
What? I never knew that, Jackie.
Yes,
Wow, it's a small world.
it really is. And
Wow.
then across the street, I had cousins. The Edna Coleman's father was her grandfather, and my grandfather were brothers.
Wow.
So, and then up the street was my aunt, Mrs. Allen. And, then of course across the street was Leola.
Mm-hmm.
Agnes Allen was her name. And across from Agnes Allen was my other aunt, Aunt Leola Dorsey, who we called Aunt Sing.
Right.
And basically, there would be times like at night times, if you wanted something or needed something, they would like go like this, ooh, across the street, you know, like, you know, to tell somebody something like, okay, come out on the porch now. It's, I got a message for you. And then up the street was my uncle, John Exum.
Okay.
Then distant cousins were the Moores.
Right.
Miss Dula Moore, Mr. Reverend Sam Moore. Then my grandmother lived, next to them. And then, and then other church members lived in between.
Mm-hmm. So you were surrounded by basically your neighbors were your family.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. That's
I
something
was,
right there.
as a child, when my mother started to work, she would tell me, okay, your Aunt Agnes, we called Aunt Girlie. She'd go, I want you to go at such and such a time to Aunt Girlie's house because she has like cooked dinner for us.
Wow.
And you can like bring it home, things like that.
Yeah. Wow. The simple things in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
was so simple then, was, people helping people every single day.
Every
Wow.
single day. And,
Yeah.
I can remember coming home from school, walking by her house and picking like a flower bouquet out of her yard. I
Wow.
asked her because I absolutely loved arrangements of fresh flowers in the house. And so I asked them, I said, do you mind, Girlie, if I like stop and do a bouquet to take home? No, help yourself.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
It
You
was just
really had
love.
a very, very good childhood, very good childhood,
Yes.
with all that family love surrounding you.
Yes. And I just love spending time at their homes,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know.
because they made you feel at home. You know what I mean? They would just, it was nothing for anyone to drop into anybody's house.
Yeah, absolutely. And even your neighbors like Mrs. the Thomases once lived next door to us. And, I can remember just, you know, going over to visit them. And Mr. Thomas, Marjorie Thomas' husband, he used to grow strawberries. Do you
Wow.
remember? He grew strawberries and he sold strawberries. I mean, the most delicious, beautiful strawberries you ever seen in your life.
Oh, wow. My goodness. Did they live on Carroll Heights or Guilford Road?
They lived on Guilford Road.
Okay. They
They
were
lived up
leaving.
a
If
little.
you left your house and made a left and went past Miss Beulah's, they were down that way.
They were a little
Okay.
bit further than that. There were about several houses down from Miss Beulah.
Wow. And that was your family also?
They weren't family. They were church members.
Oh, I see. Oh,
And
okay.
they treated us like family because every Christmas, every like birthdays and holidays, they gifted us children's things.
Oh, wow. What was school like for you in Guilford, and where did you attend, girl?
I attended Guilford Elementary School, was a fabulous school.
Yes, it was. Yay,
It is.
Guilford.
I mean, I love school and I attended, I think, except for 1 year, I got perfect attendance.
Wow.
And I had the measles and I had to stay home and I was absolutely just devastated.
Oh, wow.
But I got perfect attendance every other year attending that school because I loved it so much. The teachers there
Yeah.
were very smart, highly educated, and had like this intense desire to make you want to learn. And if you had trouble learning, they spent extra time with you to teach you. And they had like a close relationship with the parents and the teachers. My mother, Barbara Exum, was the president of the PTA, the Parent Association's organization. And she worked very closely with the teachers and Dr. Woodson, who was the principal. It lays a foundation for you at that school, we practice, what is it, Arbor Day. Do you remember May Day?
Oh my God, do I remember May Day rapping this stupid May poem?
That was so much fun.
It was, but it was torture in a way, because if you didn't get it right, you would get smacked.
Exactly.
But I loved it. I loved it.
And we had band. We
Yes.
had all sorts of like contests and things like that.
Yes.
The young ladies did, and so we had the music lessons. We had a small band, and I remember them being so conscientious about just the way we looked and acted. Dr. Woodson had like even a dentist to come in.
Yes.
Remember, he had a dentist to come in to take care of us. It was just a unique experience that you can't forget. And as a matter of fact, when I got into 6th grade, I was really anticipating on going to Harriet Tubman High School, because Dr. Kraft was so smart and his intellect was off the chain, and he recruited just like Dr. Woodson did. They recruited the best teachers. And I knew the history of the graduates from Harriet Tubman were going to the best colleges. They were going to receive a great education, and you were going to get the attention that you needed in order for you to direct you in the profession that would best suit you. And due to integration, I was really upset that I would not have then that experience.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I appreciate, at the time I didn't, but now I appreciate how they cared for us.
Yeah.
We were forced to be who we are today.
Yes.
Image-wise, intellectual, education, everything we said and did, they groomed us. They just, it was a priority, that you had to be somebody in life,
Right.
So I appreciate it all. I mean, at the time, like I said, my grandparents were so strict on me. Most people in the neighborhood would have to come to my house to play with me, because there were very few houses I could go to. But now I appreciate all of that.
I remember your house, and I remembered that you always had this meat smelling powder on. You were like powdered down. I was going, this girl is really powdered.
That was that Chantilly that Madeline Carter loved. But you know what, I guess their parents reared them like that. You know what I mean? They wanted to make sure that you were an awesome citizen. That,
and a good young lady.
Yes. Yeah.
And even at like Guilford School, I can remember when I had a salute when about Marian Anderson.
Yeah.
It was just, you had an introduction to so many musical things, literature. Just, it was a Guilford School. It was just a marvelous place for a kid to go to school.
Very cultural, very cultural.
Yes.
My grandmother, She saved some albums. I have them here in my office of Marian Anderson, Martin Luther King. You know, she would play those albums over and over and over. Sarah Vaughan, all of that. You know, she would make sure, you know, that you were culturally ready for the world.
Yeah, and my father was he was a blues buff, and he loved gospel music.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's really amazing because my nieces and nephews, one Christmas, I don't want to forget, and he loved Mahalia Jackson, and I like Mahalia Jackson, but I sort of got enough of Mahalia Jackson too.
But you didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice.
My nieces and nephews, when they were like 3 and 4, they knew the words to Lou Rawls.
Oh, wow.
And I could not believe it that they really enjoyed that music.
Wow. Oh my goodness, that is wonderful.
And I, you know, I became a lover of all kinds of music, classical music, jazz. And I can remember visiting my grandmother, Esther, her house. And when I never understood how my uncle, Buddy Taylor, and my cousin, Art Hall, his parents died when they were young. And I think the youngest 3 boys had to come and live with my grandmother. And I didn't find this out until I was an adult. But when they died, my grandmother had to bring them to the house. And so they got a house behind the regular house, and we called the boys' house. And how they got that house was that my Uncle John worked in Fort Meade, and he told someone at work that he needed one of those, I don't know what you call it. It was a house. It was, I don't know what the soldiers live in. But anyway, they gave my grandmother one of those to put on the property. And the older boys lived there. You know, they would come to the main house for dinner and stuff, but like they were reared there. But when my uncle and one of the cousins, the older cousins, came, they ended up going to Morehouse College, and I never understood how my grandmother did that, but I'm sure it was through the counselors at Harriet Tubman High School, and others that helped them to get into Morehouse. And when they would come home from Atlanta, they would bring these jazz albums home. And I learned how to sing along with jazz masters at a young age, because I just routinely listened to Cannonball Adderley and just, you know, the great jazz singers. So I just was fascinated with that.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to go so much off the record, but
no, that's okay. That's quite all right. This is great. This is what we want.
Yeah. Where did you go to school after Guilford?
I went to Waterloo.
Okay.
And then after that, I went to Howard High, and then I went to Alphalton. And we were the first graduating class from Alphalton at Columbia. Yeah. I had good times at those schools too. Yeah. But I mean, still, I mean, still there was a lot of racism going on, and you know, living in Guilford, we were pretty much protected and did not really face a lot of discrimination unless we went outside of that community. I mean, we knew that when we went to Laurel or Savage that it was going to be different, you know, and you sort of had to be on your P's and Q's. Of course, my grandmother, Esther, who was half white, she could go, uh-oh.
Come back, Jackie, come back.
I'm coming back. I'm a decline. I don't know how to.
There you
Here
are.
we go. And
Okay.
so, you know, she could actually go into places in Laurel that a lot of us could not go into.
Okay. Yeah, I had an uncle like that could go into places in Savage that, you know, most Blacks couldn't go into because he, you know, he looked like a white man. You know, he could go in places and be comfortable. He wasn't afraid. You know,
But
so
I don't know. But while I was at Howard, while I was at Waterloo, I can't remember the music instructor's name, but I had a gift for voice, and my mother asked him, and he was white, for him to come to our house to give me voice lessons. And so he gave me some, because we always had a piano because my mother played the piano, the organ, and the harmonica. And so he came to our house and gave me voice lessons. And I was in musical productions while I attended Waterloo. And while I was at Alkerton, I think it was I participated in the Handel's Messiah for the first time. So, you know, I had a wonderful French teacher at Waterloo, and you know, so I did have good experiences there.
okay. Yeah, I think once we left Guilford Elementary School, we were forced into a different world.
Right.
You know, but we survived it. You know what I mean? That also made us who we are today. We survived it, you know.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, you know.
Yeah.
It was, you know, we were protected being in the Guilford community because we were never exposed to discrimination. You
Right.
know, but everything that happens in life, you know, prepares you to be an adult, you know. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I believe that. Okay. What stores were available in the Guilford area?
You know, there weren't really any significant stores in Guilford. We had the Carter's, like, little convenience store that you could buy various items from, and then my grandmother and grandfather Moore in their house had like this little store where you could buy sodas, candy, bread, and things like that.
Okay.
But like none of those and ice snowballs and things like that. So, but I mean, there were no clothing stores, there were no grocery stores or anything like that in actual Guilford that I can remember.
Where did your family shop?
We shopped basically in Laurel, and savage because we had this doctor, and we had a doctor, I should mention this. He was a fantastic doctor. His name was Dr. John. And he would he would even come to your house, which was unusual for, a white doctor to come into the Black community and to serve you. But he had a really good relationship with my grandparents, my grandfather Henry and Eileen Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or we would go to Laurel to his doctor's office and see him. And I practically stayed there a lot because I used to get tonsillitis all the time.
Oh, wow.
And so, but he was like a good doctor, and he was a very, you know, I, we just loved him, really.
Mm-hmm.
For taking care
Um,
of us.
did you have any childhood heroes in Guilford?
Oh, absolutely. My parents were heroes of mine because, my father at a very early age was in a very terrible accident and was hospitalized for months. And for him, because of his limited education, he had to he would tell us all the time, I want you to do better, but he worked for, like I said, the George Hyman Construction Company. And it was amazing to me how, during pain and just his mere determination to provide for his family, that he did it. And my mother she was like, they were both adamant that, you know what, this generation is going to do better than the next generation. And I
Mm-hmm.
want you to have the best education. I want you to have the best whatever there is. I can remember before graduating, I was in the Maryland debutante ball. I don't know how that woman found out about that ball, but it was like a coming out. So she put me in there, and you know and for my brothers, so that they could have like things to do. My father bought this above ground like swimming pool and made it have a 3-foot level and a 5-foot level, and to keep those boys at home, and the friends coming in, for them to like, you know um have a good life. And also, I was really proud of my aunt Singh, who was the first president of the NAACP, woman president of the NAACP for Howard County. And I guess I was like in the youth NAACP, and my brother and I, mostly me, I was always called if they need somebody to lick stamps. You know. So, I lick so many stamps. It's like just unbelievable. And then some of my heroes were Dr. Kraft, Mrs. Kraft, um, who is a member, I must say, of my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, which is also the sorority for our vice president. Uh, and, you know, just my grandmother, for not giving up and saying, okay, these Baptist ministers, male ministers, are not going to let me preach at first in their church. So, but I'm preaching, So she decided that's what she was going to go to school. She did what she had to do to get certified and became a Methodist minister. I had so many men and women, role models that I could look up to. I just I just adored them. If it had not been, and I had a Baptist, a Methodist minister also. I looked up to people in Guilford Church, the men and women of Guilford Church and of Asbury Church, because they set an example for us. Yes. On how we should act in public, how we should strive for a better education, how we should do the best we could do. Don't settle for less. Do the best you can. Exactly. And I remember, like, aunts, the NAACP of Howard County, when I was in the 5th grade, I saw his picture in Jet Magazine and Ebony Magazine, but when they asked me if I wanted to go to New Jersey to a rally to see Adam Clayton Powell, I was beyond myself. Wow. No. I said, no, of course I'm coming. So, I mean, so I tagged along for those sorts of things. Okay. And yeah, so, Yeah, that's wonderful. I love these stories, Jackie. Well, what was your religious life like in the Guilford community? You were a member of Asbury? Yes. Okay, yeah, because we were trying to find, what was the lady's name? We're trying to find some information on from Asbury, Wayne. She was a principal or something.
Oh, was it Lorraine? Was it Lorraine Arthur?
Lorraine Arthur. Are you familiar with her, Jackie? I'm not familiar with her. Okay. See, I was a member at Asbury United Methodist Church until about right when I graduated from high school was when I then joined Guilford Church. Okay. Because my mother stayed at Asbury Methodist Church because she was the youngest of siblings in her family. Mm-hmm. So she stayed with my grandmother. After my grandmother passed, then my father, mother, and we all went to Guilford Church. Of course, at that time, after that, I moved on, went to college. So the activities that I did at Guilford Church were basically assisting my mother, who was the president of the Missionary Society, and also she played the piano for prayer meetings at Guilford Church. I remember. And she brought in a food bank. Right. And so she and my father did the food. So basically, and I remember there was a tradition on Thanksgiving that Asbury would go to Guilford Church one year, and then the next year Guilford Church would go to Asbury. Mm-hmm. And so it then what happened, my mother had a love for, it was what was the name of it? It was a mental hospital. I think it was Clifton T. Perkins. It wasn't that. Or Shepherd Pratt. It was in one of those counties not far from Howard County. Spring Grove. Yes, okay. I believe that. But so what the pastor then, Reverend Wright, and my mother decided would be that not only would they invite members from that mental institution for Thanksgiving dinner, because we at one point we didn't even have Thanksgiving dinner at home because my mother was responsible for the food and bringing those people there for not only dinner but for church, so that they could have the church experience and dinner. Okay. So that was a unique thing. And I just remember
Sunday school at both churches and church services at both churches. I just love the way the choir marched around and the ushers marched around, you know.
Forever. Forever. We had the march. Miss Evoy Robinson with her high heels on.
Oh, yes, magnificent voice.
Oh my goodness, she was something else, I'm telling you.
And Children's Day, how we had to dress up and say our poems and things like that.
Yes.
You know, I just absolutely loved it.
Saturday night preparing for Children's Day, getting your hair curled and straightened, and you know, your neck getting burnt from the straightening comb, all that kind of stuff. Well,
Yeah.
you didn't have that problem.
No.
You know, oh yes, I did have that problem.
Wayne, did you want to jump in?
Nope, we're good.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, Jackie. Were there any historical events that happened in Guilford during your earlier years? Any historical events that you can remember?
I can't remember
Okay.
any. Mhm.
Okay. Do you know any stories about the Guilford Quarry, the railroad between Savage and Guilford? Are you aware of any swimming holes in Guilford?
Well, my brothers, I don't know a lot about it. All I know is my brothers uh, would swim, and I had cousins who used to swim in some of those swimming holes.
Do you know where they were located?
I think one of my cousins told me that it was one behind Mission Road.
Okay. Because I remember one being on Burger Road,
Okay.
a swimming hole on Burger Road. Not many people remember it, but I remember it.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember it very well. Yeah. Um, how were holidays separated in your family growing up in Guilford?
Basically, we celebrated holidays with family and friends. I mean, my parents, abs- um, we always had like preachers or uh, individuals who were new to the community that would come to our house for maybe the 4th of July, would come for Christmas dinners, for holidays they were special to my family. As my father and both my mother loved to cook and just loved those types of celebrations and cooking and just sharing meals with family and friends.
Yeah.
You know, and if you didn't
Yeah, that
have
was,
a place to go, you could come. You were invited.
yeah, that was a big thing in Guilford. Fellowshipping with each other, you know, mingling with all families. I was sharing with Wayne about how quite a few of the Black churches in the Guilford area, we always interacted with each other, like Locust, Asbury,
Yes.
Payne Memorial, Community Baptist. You know,
Yes.
we were all connected some kind of way. We worship differently, but we all supported each other. You know?
We did. And like for Christmas, we always the church always like did these bags with apples and oranges and nuts and things like that and gave them out to everybody. And I can remember like I would like it's especially a time for me and my mom. We would go to different friends and relatives' houses especially during the Christmas season. You know, I was telling you about the Thomases and the strawberries that they grew. Well, Mr. Roger made the best homemade wine, and he he did. And so we would go there Christmas, and she would have the homemade cookies, and he would bring out the homemade wine, and we would start, and my mother said, we've got to go to this person's house. We got to go to this person's house. And Aunt Sing, she made the best homemade root beer.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, people really anticipated on celebrating with friends and family, and they baked and they made special things so that we could get together and have a good time.
Yeah, I remember my grandfather made homemade dandelion wine and root beer and
Yeah.
apple cider, and he would keep it in the shed with a dog. I forget the name of the dog, but it's that dog scared me to death. The dog was chained to the building, so if somebody tried to get in there, you know, they would have a time get past that dog. But it was a child. We had a child, and oh my God, they every Christmas, you know, he would make that homemade wine and put it in that shed, you know, but nobody could get past that dog to get in there and sip that wine. You know?
It was just time. Holidays were just special, and you just look forward to it.
Yeah. Let's see. Are there stories about famous or infamous relatives in your family?
No, but no, I don't remember any, but I can tell you right now that my godchild, who was christened in First Baptist Church of Guilford, her name is Kimberly Dora Exum, who was named after my mother's sister, Dora, who was named by Miss Dora Carter, who had the store who I took piano lessons from.
Right. That's my aunt, you know.
Okay, all right. Well, she cracked my knuckles a many a time for not having my fingers right on the piano. I can tell you that. She was really good. I was talking to Naomi about it. She really knew how to crack your knuckles on that. But
we interviewed Miss Beulah Moore, and she told us, I never knew Miss Beulah took lessons from Aunt Dora, but Miss Beulah said how Aunt Dora would crack her knuckles if she didn't get the note right.
But my niece Kimberly Dora, now you'll see her. She's got an Crest TV ad running on television now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
What's the name of the ad?
It's the Crest toothpaste ad.
Really?
And she was a theater major from the University of Virginia, Richmond Commonwealth, and she majored in theater, and I think her minor might have been English. But anyway, she works on Broadway, and during this break, she ended up landing a job doing that TV commercial, which is airing right now, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look for that.
Yeah.
Are there stories you'd like to share about Guilford life that were passed down from your parents, your grandparents, or other ancestors?
Well, basically, you know, not really, but I just really wanted to plug the fact that because of the NAACP, I was able to go to Washington to see Dr. King as where he was laid, you know, where he rested, so that the public could see him at the rotunda.
Okay.
And so I was able to do that. I was able to meet H. Rap Brown through connections of Asbury United Methodist Church, and so, you know, those sort of things are important to a kid or a young person growing up, that you read about and you can meet and listen to conversations about all the work that those individuals did in the community.
Okay. Um, what do you miss the most about the way things used to be in Guilford?
Oh, wow. The community has become so diverse. I think that a lot of the children, because of limited jobs and things that you could maybe have, moved away. Um, and I miss the being able to um, just socialize and be close to family like it used to be,
Yeah.
and I miss the church activities. You know, I miss like the Girl Scouts. I mean, they had the girls, we had the Girl Scouts, and we had the Brownie troops, and we did things, and the kids in that community did things together.
Yes.
And that sisterly love, that family love that you experience growing up in a community that's so close knit, it's just almost hard to find today,
It is. You're right
because
about.
people don't even know their neighbors, and you knew your neighbors back then.
Yes, because we did every single thing together. We did church, we did school, we did picnics. We did everything together. The whole community, where I live, where you live, everything was done together.
And people didn't mind like sharing information with you, stories with you, or just advice with you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They were anxious to give you knowledge and wisdom. It didn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
They would share it. They wouldn't hesitate to tell you anything.
Yes.
Nowadays, it's just totally opposite. Social media has just, become some people's life. You know what I mean? So I,
Yeah.
I think we were very fortunate and blessed to have been raised the way that we were.
And I think I can say this is that um growing up in a community like that and having teachers who were really made an impression on you to choose professions that you wanted to enter into. I'm going to have to decline this and get out of here.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm not very technical. You know.
You're doing great.
But it laid a foundation for you. Never in a
Yeah.
million years would I have thought. Everybody thinks I'm from a city or someplace. I live in Mississippi, which is a county that has 7,000 people, and uh, I mean, it's a small, not 7,000 people, but it has a small population, and it's a rural city. But growing up and having the parents that you had, the community that you had, the schools that you had, it put in you a determination to do whatever it is that you wanted to in life. And it made me always strive for better, because my parents would go, I want you to have a better education than me. I wanted you to have a better life than me. And, and I was going to, and I am fortunate enough to have met several presidents of the United States in my life. And, which is quite unusual for a little girl from me who grew up in Guilford.
Right.
I
How did that happen?
I met Ronald Reagan. I met Ronald Reagan through Charles Evers, who was the brother of Medgar Evers.
Okay.
He asked me if I wanted to go on the plane with him to meet Ronald Reagan. And I said, yes. And he said, come on. And so I was able to get on and meet President Reagan through him.
Okay.
A close friend of mine who I worked for, Wilbur Colomb, who's an attorney here, I met him at Antioch School of Law, which I ended up coming to Mississippi to work in providing legal services, civil legal services to individuals who met certain income guidelines. And so I was able to meet, I'm going to show you this picture, President Bush.
Oh, wow.
Bush.
That's you, Jackie?
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that nice? Oh, wow.
And I was able to meet the next President Bush.
Okay.
I was able to go to the inaugural ball for the Clinton administration and attended the Arkansas inaugural ball.
Okay.
Wow.
And finally, I was able to meet President Obama.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Wow, you get around for being from a small town.
Yes, you do, coming from Guilford. Look at you.
From Guilford. From Guilford, Maryland. And I consider myself so blessed to have
awesome.
people in my corner who taught me exactly how to communicate with just practically about anybody.
That's right. That's right.
And I did have I wanted to show you, but I don't know if I do. But I was able to meet Alex Haley.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think I brought that picture though.
Okay.
But I met him. I worked with Dr. E.J. Stringer, who was a close worker of Medgar Evers. And Dr. Stringer went to college with Alex Haley.
Okay.
So he was at Mississippi State University. So I was able to meet him.
Okay. So the weather in Mississippi, are you all straight now? Are the tornadoes gone?
We just came out of a bad weather from last night.
Oh, wow.
But the weather is, now it's going to be 28 degrees tonight. I had to go out and cover up all of my tender plants.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been in Mississippi, Jackie, since you left, since you graduated Appleton? You've been in Mississippi?
I've been in, after I graduated from Morgan University, I went to Antioch Law School to get certified in the paralegal program there.
Okay.
So I came here in 1977. So I've been here since 1977.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Look at you, home girl.
I never intended to stay this long.
Okay. But it must be, Mississippi must be good to you.
Well, God has purposes for everybody, and civil rights and representing people, you know, in civil cases, who ordinarily would not be able to have an attorney. And I also am an administrative law um, representative. So I represent people on Social Security cases, unemployment, things like that. And
Okay.
so it gave me an opportunity to do the work that I needed to do
Yes. Yay.
and get the
Yeah.
training that I needed to get.
Yeah. Yeah. I shared your background with Wayne. I emailed it to him. You probably haven't seen it yet. Jackie's background that she emailed me. She's accomplished quite a lot coming from, you know, the foundation that you did. I mean, look at God, you know what I mean? And thank God that you had the foundation laid for you, you know, to get this far in life. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, I think it helped me to working with my Aunt Singh and Dr. Kraft and with my mother's and father's, you know, urgency on me getting a fairly good education and just doing whatever you wanted to do, that it made me come here and not be afraid to do what I needed to do, the work that I needed to do. Because I mean, Mississippi is behind in everything almost.
Okay.
So
Yeah, yeah, they the Guilford community, I think their greatest priority was education.
right.
You know, they pushed education, you know, before they pushed anything else. You know,
Right.
you had to get a decent education, you know.
Right.
So
And the
Jackie,
work
go ahead.
the work that my parents did, I wanted to show you, um, because the work that my parents did in the community, I think is just, that legacy is awesome.
It is. I
And
remember your parents. I remember, you know, how meek and mild your dad was every time I saw him. And your mom was so graceful. I mean, she always, and she had a voice like an angel. You took after her for that voice.
oh,
But
thank you.
she was always, you know, always in the community helping people. That's what I remember her as. Always, you know, being a servant, you know, and I think that's what it's all about. You know, life is all about, you know, servitude.
And
You know,
her thing was, if I can help somebody.
right.
And you know, I just pulled out this one certificate of appreciation presented to Barbara C., which was Credell was her middle name, Exum, for outstanding service and dedicated service, Women's Auxiliary of the UBMC of Maryland.
Oh, wow.
You know, and of course, you know, my father was in the background, but this is from the Women's Convention because she couldn't do it without him, you
I
know.
know. Do you have any pictures of your parents nearby?
Oh, yeah. And this is from
Okay.
the United Baptist Missionary Convention of Maryland Service Award.
Okay.
To Daniel Exum for his service.
All
But,
right. Oh, okay. There he is.
yeah, there he is. And I do have a picture of them.
Okay.
Oh, gee, let me see. And of course, they did love gardening and things like that. I'm going to show you a picture of the whole family, but this was at, I don't know if you can see it. There's my parents are sitting down.
Okay.
And me and my two brothers.
Oh, okay. What year was that?
This was probably in the early 90s.
Okay.
And this was at a family reunion in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, which my father acted like he had to go every year.
Okay.
And this is a picture of them when they were at one of those auxiliary women's auxiliary
Okay.
convention.
Well, I'm glad you have pictures and, so many memories. Memories mean so much, That's why pictures are important. My children hate it because I take pictures all the time.
Don't you just love it?
Yeah,
What
but
do
I
they
mean,
say? Mom, put the camera down.
yeah, those are memories. You have to take pictures because, one day we're going to heaven and that's all they're going to have is pictures.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So listen,
Okay.
Jackie, is there anything that we didn't ask about Guilford that you would like to add at this time?
I don't think so. I can tell you that in Guilford and the surrounding areas, that Mrs. Kraft, Dorothy Kraft, and my mother did at Guilford Church, Asbury Church, and the surrounding counties and things. They gave recitals. My
Okay.
mother sang, and Mrs. Kraft, she did play the piano, and this is a picture of them together.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Miss Kraft just celebrated her 98th birthday.
I
She's
talked to
98.
her.
Did you really?
I did. And this is
Okay.
a picture of this is in Guilford. This was when I was born, of
Oh,
my
okay.
father holding me in Guilford.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
They were married in Guilford, and this is a picture of them. I'm gonna show you this one. This was at my grandmother's house in Guilford, and this is a picture of them at their wedding reception.
Is that at Miss Reverend Ali Moore's house?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Can you put it up a little bit closer to the camera?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You gotta hold it up. I can't see it. Oh, okay. There. Oh, wow. Look how young they look.
Isn't that something?
Yes. Wow. Well, Wayne, do you have anything that you'd like to ask Jackie at this time?
Well, I just, one thing I noticed, it's amazing that just your extended family, it has the Moores and the Coleman, I
Yes.
heard mentioned in Holland. And, it shows there were so many families, core families in Guilford. And it's amazing. You know, had you ever heard of any stories of, people's grandparents working in the quarry or anything like that?
I never heard of it. I never heard of it.
Okay.
No.
But you said that your father and Reverend Moore, who had the concrete business, sometimes they'd work together on side projects and stuff.
On side projects and other men in the Guilford community who were laborers, they would find out about a job and tell each other about a job, and they would travel places together.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
jobs weren't always very plentiful.
Well, it all depends. If you were like, my father worked for George Hyman Construction Company, and his work was okay, but sometimes you were out of work.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you were out of work. But he absolutely refused to work non-union jobs unless there were members in the Guilford community who said, we got this job. Do you want to work with us on it?
Okay. They looked out for each other.
Right.
One last question. Since you lived on, and I meant to ask Miss Beulah this, but since you're in the Guilford Road area, in quite a few different parts of that, were there any white families in between, or any white families that you remember, interacting with?
I don't remember interacting with any white families in Guilford.
Okay, because there was that store, I think, or was it a bar?
There was a bar at the end of Guilford Road.
Yeah.
Nisley's.
Oh no, there was Nisley's now, but it was in the middle of Guilford Road. But like there was also a bar at the end of Guilford Road.
Oh yeah, Woody's. It's still there. Woody's. Yeah.
Woody's. And because I had an uncle who frequented there pretty frequently, and you know, and he got along really well with the folks there.
Yeah.
And they looked after him quite well, and there was Nisers. But it didn't. I don't know when Nisers went out of business, and of course, we never, as you know, that was like off limits. And mostly grown people might have gone there, but I don't remember any other businesses in Guilford or white families in Guilford at that time and growing up. Now there was, before we bought out the house that we lived in, the last house that we lived in and we purchased a white family was living in there.
In the house before you moved in?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you probably don't remember much about going into Savage?
Yeah, I do remember going into Savage.
What was your experience?
Like? Sorry.
It was, you know, I never experienced any overt discrimination in Savage, but we were told that we should be very careful about Savage, you know, because of racial discrimination, and that, I mean, and you limited your travel. You limited your travel there because of it. But there was one little grocery store there that we went to occasionally, and we were treated pretty fairly there at the grocery store.
Did Miss Dora's grocery store? I know that she sold a lot of convenience items. Did that include milk and eggs?
I don't know, but I don't think so. It included like candies and things like that. And she might have had some clothes and things in there too. She had
stockings. She had stockings and candy, and she had like deli meats and cheeses and hair products, and she sold kerosene. But it wasn't a lot of like, you know, eggs and milk. You know, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. A lot of canned goods.
Scared to go in there, tell you truth.
Huh?
I was scared to go in there.
You had to come in there right. She had to inspect you from head to toe.
You know, that was quite an intimidating experience to go into Cousin Dora's store.
That's right. If she opened that door and you were not dressed to come in her place of business, you could not come in.
Yeah, you remember that car she had, that station wagon she had with the wood paneling on the side with the big wheel on the back?
Yes. I rode in that many a day with no air conditioning.
You did?
Yeah. So Jackie, this has been, oh my God, my heart is overwhelmed with your stories. It's just you know, it just, I'm so happy that we finally got to hear all of your great stories. They have been awesome. It's
Well,
Wayne.
Yeah.
This is part of our history here. This is the Exum family, the Moore family, the Howland family. You know, they all the families intertwined. You know what I mean? But just to sit back and visualize some of the things that you have shared with us has been a joy to my heart. And I'm so happy that we could finally connect and hear
thank
these wonderful stories. Thank you so much. Thank you.
you. And it's nice meeting you too, Wayne.
Same
Yeah.
here. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah.
And
And
we'll send you a copy of the recording.
yes, we will. I
I
have
hope I
your
didn't ramble on too much.